Hi, I'm Julia. Welcome to English Without Limit. I'm so glad you're here with me today. Maybe you're walking, maybe you're commuting, maybe you're cooking, or just relaxing with your headphones in. Wherever you are, this is your moment, your time to learn without stress, without pressure, and without fear of making mistakes. Here, we grow together. And if you've ever felt frustrated trying to understand fast English, you are in the right place. Today, we're diving into one of the most common challenges English learners face: understanding native speakers. Let me ask you something. Have you ever watched a TV show or a movie in English and thought, wait, what did they just say? Maybe you rewound the scene, but it still sounded like a blur of words. You check the subtitles and think, how is that even the same sentence I just heard? If that sounds familiar, you're not alone. I hear this all the time from learners, from Madrid to Munich, from Helsinki to Hanoi. They tell me, Julia, I can read English. I can write emails at work, but when someone speaks fast, I freeze. I feel lost. Let me tell you something important. There is nothing wrong with you. Your brain isn't broken. Your English isn't bad. Here's the truth. Most English classes do not prepare us for real-world conversation. In textbooks, we get full, clear, perfect sentences. But in real life, people drop words, blend sounds, and speak in rhythms that are totally different. They use slang, speak with regional accents, and jump from one idea to another without warning. It's no wonder you feel overwhelmed. But here's the good news. Understanding native English is a skill. And like any skill, it can be trained, step by step. So, I want you to imagine something. Imagine sitting in a cafe in Edinburgh, walking through the streets of Dublin, or waiting at a bus stop in Toronto. All around you, people are speaking in English, they're laughing, they're chatting, and you're calm, you're listening, you understand the general idea. Even if you don't catch every word, you don't feel lost. You feel part of it, connected, confident. That moment, it's possible. And today, we'll take one more step toward it. Understanding native English is not about being perfect. You don't need to catch every word. You don't need to translate everything. And you definitely don't need to feel ashamed when you don't understand something right away. I always tell my students, the goal is not perfection. The goal is connection. When you focus on connection instead of perfection, everything changes. You stop panicking, you start hearing more, you feel the rhythm of the language instead of getting stuck in every little sound. Let me tell you a story. There's a listener named Carolina. She's from Warsaw. She could read novels in English, write reports, and pass exams. But when it came to listening, she felt anxious. Every conversation felt like a test. She avoided English movies because she didn't want to feel like a failure. Then one day, she heard something here on English Without Limit. And she tried a simple technique. No grammar drills, no long study hours. Just one small change in the way she listened, and it changed her confidence completely. I'll tell you what she did at the end of this episode. So stay with me. But before we go there, I want to remind you, you are not alone. Thousands of learners, from Stockholm to Rome, from Lisbon to Prague, feel exactly like you. We're building this journey together, here on English Without Limit. And if you're enjoying this conversation, I'd love for you to subscribe to the podcast. If you're on a platform that lets you like or rate, go ahead and do that too. You might not realize it, But those small actions help other learners find this show, and it tells me you're finding value here, so I can keep making better episodes for you. Okay, let's take a breath. Right now. Inhale, exhale. You don't need to impress anyone. You're already doing something brave, just by pressing play. Let's go deeper now. Let me introduce you to another listener. His name is Lucas, a 29-year-old photographer from Berlin. He works with international clients, reads instructions in English, watches YouTube videos. He passed all his exams. But when it came to real-life conversations, everything changed. A few months ago, Lucas traveled to London for a photography exhibition. From airport announcements to gallery tours, everything was in English. At first, he was excited. This was his dream. But as soon as he had to speak and listen in fast, casual English, he panicked. He walked into a coffee shop near his hotel. The barista said, "You all right?" Lucas froze. He thought something was wrong. He didn't realize that's just a common British greeting. That moment, it shook his confidence. During the exhibition, people were chatting in groups, jokes, interruptions, slang. Lucas couldn't keep up. He found himself nodding and pretending. He felt like a failure. And that pressure, that belief that he should understand everything, became a wall. When he got back to Berlin, Lucas didn't give up. He got curious. He started replaying audio from the event. He noticed that native speakers didn't say full sentences. They dropped words, used contractions, connected sounds. They weren't speaking in perfect grammar. They were speaking in rhythm. So, he changed his approach. Lucas started listening differently. Not for every word, not for perfection, just for the message. He began watching short interviews, 3 minutes long. He listened without stopping. No rewinding, no dictionary. His only goal, what is the speaker trying to say? That's it. And after 2 weeks, something shifted. His ears adapted. His brain relaxed. He started catching more. Not from memorizing, but from repetition and rhythm. Then came the real test. He joined a language exchange group. But this time, he didn't try to be perfect. He listened with curiosity. He followed the tone, the body language, the context. If someone said, "I've been meaning to check out that place," he didn't need every word. He just understood. They're interested. They haven't gone yet. That's enough. That night, Lucas sat in a cafe with people from all over the world. Fast talk, laughter, jokes, casual English. And for the first time, he didn't feel excluded. He didn't understand everything, but he understood enough. He felt present. He was part of the conversation. Lucas's story is powerful because it shows us something important. Listening isn't about perfection. It's about being present. When you stop needing to understand every single word, you start understanding the language as a whole. You listen for flow, you catch the feeling, and from that, true comprehension grows. If you feel like Lucas did in London, don't worry. Your English is not broken. You don't need more grammar books. You need real exposure, a new mindset, and a willingness to let go of perfection. Lucas didn't improve by studying harder. He improved by listening differently. And so can you. Today's truth might surprise you. You don't need to understand every word to understand what someone is saying. Let me say that again. You don't need to understand every single word. In fact, trying to do that can actually slow you down. When learners focus too much on catching every word, your brain goes into panic mode. You start translating in your head. You question every sound. You freeze. And before you know it, you've missed the whole message. But here's the secret. Native speakers don't speak word by word. They speak in groups, in phrases, with emotion, pauses, and often broken grammar. So why should you try to listen word by word? Think about how people speak in real life. It's not like a textbook. They don't always finish their sentences. They interrupt themselves. They say things like, "So I was like, just kind of waiting for her to call or whatever." Now, if you stop to analyze, or whatever, you'll miss the whole point. Because in that moment, those little words don't carry the meaning. What matters is the feeling. They were waiting, uncertain, expecting something. And you got that, without translating every word. Let me tell you about Marie from Lyon. She studied English for over 10 years, very focused on grammar. But listening, it always made her nervous. One day she told me, "Julia, I feel like people are throwing words at me, and I don't know which ones to catch." That image stayed with me. It's exactly what happens when we try to listen word by word. So I gave her a new challenge. I said, "Don't focus on the words. Focus on the emotion." Was the speaker happy? Bored? Curious? Suddenly, Marie relaxed. She began noticing patterns, hearing rhythms, and most importantly, her brain stopped trying to translate. Here's something I remind all my students. Listening is not reading. Reading is slow. You can pause, go back, reread. But listening, language is alive in the moment. That's why rhythm matters. Native English has a rhythm. It's not just what is said, but how it's said. Think of it like music. You may not understand the lyrics of a song, but you still feel the mood. It's the same with English. If someone says, "I can't believe she said that," you hear shock, right? You feel the emotion, even if the grammar isn't perfect. So, what should you do? Start listening to chunks of language. Chunks are small groups of words that go together. Like, I don't know, "Are you serious?" It's up to you. Native speakers say these chunks fast. They sound like one long word. If you try to break them down word by word, you'll miss them. But if you train your ear to hear the pattern, you'll understand instantly. Let me give you an example. Someone says, "Do you want to grab lunch later?" If you're listening for individual words, it sounds like, "Do you want to?" Confusing, right? But if you know the chunk, you recognize it's just a casual way of saying, "Would you like to eat together?" No dictionary, no grammar analysis, just meaning, instant meaning. Here's another reason why understanding every word isn't necessary. Communication isn't just about words. It's also about gesture, tone, context, facial expressions. Think about it. When someone speaks your language with an accent, you still understand them, right? They don't need to be perfect, and neither do you. So, how can you practice this? Start by asking, where are you? What's the topic? What's the relationship between the speakers? These clues help you fill in the gaps, because truth bomb. Native speakers break grammar rules all the time. They say, "He don't know," or "There's a lot of cars." You won't find that in textbooks, but you will hear it on the street. And it's okay. Real English is imperfect, and that's what makes it real. I once listened to a group of college students in Dublin. They were planning their weekend. One said, "We're just gonna chill, maybe hit the pub if it's not lashin' rain, might swing by Tom's." Now, if you tried to write that down word for word, total chaos. But if you listen for the mood, you get it. They're relaxed, talking casually, making flexible plans. That's all you need to know. So here's what I recommend. Stop chasing every word. Start noticing patterns. Listen for how words connect. Which words are stressed? Which ones disappear? Here's the key. Native speakers stress what's important, and they glide over the rest. That's your roadmap. Try this exercise. Listen to a 1-minute clip. Don't write what you missed. Write what you did understand. What was the topic? What was the tone? What chunks or phrases did you hear? It's not about accuracy, it's about building confidence. Shift your mindset from, I missed that word, to, I got the message. That shift changes everything. Let me share one last story. It's about Sophia. She's from Athens, but moved to Paris for university. Her English is strong. She watches lectures, reads business articles, even works part-time in English. But casual conversation, that was her weak spot. She found herself in the UK, at a train station in Birmingham. Lost. She asked a staff member for help. He replied, "All right, just head down that corridor, past the lifts, take a left at the cafe, then platform 8's on your right after the newsstand." It was fast, casual, with a thick accent. She froze, smiled, said, "Thank you," and walked away, totally confused. She wandered for 10 minutes. Her heart was racing. Later that night, she told the story to a friend. She felt embarrassed, frustrated. But then she did something powerful. She wrote down what she remembered. Bit by bit, it came back. Past the lifts, left at the cafe, platform 8 by the newsstand. She realized she had understood more than she thought. It wasn't a language problem. It was panic. Fear had blocked her ears. This happens to so many learners. Fear makes your mind cloudy. You stop listening for meaning and start thinking, I don't get this. I'm not good enough. But that's not true. Most of the time you do understand more than you realize. You just need to trust your brain. After that experience, Sophia made a change. She said, "My goal is not perfect understanding. My goal is to stay calm." She started focusing on key information. Not every word, not every detail, just the basics, location, direction, emotion. She also practiced simple phrases like, "Could you say that again a bit slower?" Or, "So that's platform 8, right?" Not complicated, but powerful. It helped her stay present, stay confident, and stay connected. So today, I want you to remember this. You don't need to understand every word. You need to stay open, stay relaxed, and keep listening. Language is not a test. It's a tool for connection. The more you listen with curiosity, the more it will all make sense. One chunk, one phrase, one breath at a time. Another key part of Sophia's strategy was reflection. After conversations or listening moments, she would write down what she remembered. Not only did this help her improve her listening, but it also showed her she wasn't as lost as she thought. Each time she looked back, she realized she had understood more than she felt in the moment. And with that quiet self-awareness, her confidence grew a little more. That gave her the strength to keep going. What Sophia learned, and what I want you to take away today, is that panic is often the real barrier, not your English level. It's normal to feel anxious when someone speaks fast or when you're somewhere unfamiliar. But the more you practice staying calm, the more your brain can process what it hears. Listening isn't just a language skill. It's also an emotional skill. Managing your feelings is just as important as learning new words or grammar. Now, Sophia travels prepared, not just with language, but with a mindset. She reminds herself, real English is fast, messy, and full of surprises. but she also knows she's more capable than she sometimes thinks. Her experience in that train station in Birmingham wasn't failure. It was a lesson about the power of mindset. From that moment on, she stopped chasing perfection and started building trust in herself. That small change made all the difference. If you've ever been in a situation like Sophia's, I want you to know, it's okay. You don't have to understand everything. You just need to stay calm, stay curious, and keep going. That's where real progress begins. Now, let's talk about subtitles. A lot of learners watch everything with subtitles. I get it. Subtitles give you security. They help you follow along, confirm what you hear, and keep you from feeling lost. It feels comfortable. It feels safe. And that's important when you're learning. But here's something many learners don't realize. If you always rely on subtitles, you might be stopping your brain from doing what it needs most. To really listen in real time, to the rhythm, speed, and flow of English as it's naturally spoken. I'm not saying never use subtitles. Use them like training wheels. They help you get started, but if you never take them off, you'll never learn to balance on your own. Try this instead. Watch something twice. First with subtitles, then without. This simple switch can change your listening skills. It trains your brain to recognize sounds, catch phrases, and build confidence. Here's how to do it. Start with short videos, no longer than 5 minutes. A scene from a show, a quick interview, or a vlog clip. Watch once with English subtitles. Follow along. Don't worry about understanding every word. Just get the general idea. Notice which words are clear and which words disappear when spoken fast. After that, take a short break. Then watch again. Without subtitles. Let your brain work. Don't panic if you miss parts. Don't stop the video. Let it play. Your goal isn't to catch everything. Your goal is to see how much you understand without reading. Even if it's only 40%, that's okay. You're training your brain to listen by sound, not text. If you do this every day for just 10 minutes, you'll notice a shift. After a week, you'll start recognizing familiar phrases without subtitles. After 2 weeks, your brain will begin predicting what comes next. And by the 3rd week, you'll watch new content with less anxiety. It takes time. Like any habit, it needs patience. But it works for everyone, no matter your level. Because it's based on exposure, repetition, and active engagement. I remember a student named Alexander from Kiev. He depended on subtitles a lot. Even in advanced classes, he asked to turn subtitles on for every video. When I asked him to try watching without subtitles just once, he said, "But I won't understand anything." That fear is normal. The fear of being lost, of feeling stupid. But I encouraged him to try the 2-step method. Watch once with subtitles, then again without. At first, he resisted. But after a week, he noticed something. He started hearing more than he thought he could. His ears caught sounds he never noticed before. By the end of the month, he didn't ask for subtitles anymore. He still used them sometimes, but now he was in control. Another benefit of this method is it helps you tolerate ambiguity. As learners, we get uncomfortable when we don't understand something. But in real life, no one understands every single word. Even native speakers miss things. The key is to be okay with not knowing everything. Trust your brain to fill in the gaps. Watching without subtitles forces your brain to focus on tone, context, and key words. That's how you build true listening strength. You can also push yourself by choosing content just outside your comfort zone. Not too hard, but not too easy. If you only listen to slow, clear English, your brain won't grow. But if you challenge yourself with natural, faster content and use the two-step method, you'll stretch your skills without overwhelm. One of my favorite exercises: pick a short clip from a show or podcast. Write down 3 things you understood, then watch it again without subtitles. See if you catch more. Simple, effective. Let's talk mindset. Your goal isn't perfection, it's progress. If you think, I must understand 100%, you'll feel frustrated. But if you think, let's see what I can catch, you'll stay motivated. Each time you listen without subtitles, you're training your brain. You're building real-world listening muscles, and those muscles get stronger over time. Another student, Nayan from Vienna, kept a listening journal. Every day she watched a short video, first with subtitles, then without. She wrote down a phrase she recognized, a part she didn't understand, and something new she learned. This daily habit helped her focus on gains, not losses. It kept her going. Even when it felt slow, she saw her progress in those notes. So, if you use subtitles all the time, try this shift. Don't remove them completely. Just change how you use them. Watch first with subtitles, then again without. Let yourself listen. Trust that your brain is learning, even if you don't catch everything. Every time you listen without text, you take one step closer to natural understanding. That's how you become a confident English listener. Not by memorizing rules, but by hearing English as it's truly spoken, and believing you can catch more than you think. Let me tell you about Matteo from Milan. He studied English for years, good at writing emails, reading articles, understanding scripted audio. But casual, fast conversations? He felt left out. Listening felt like standing outside a room, hearing people laugh and talk, but unable to join. One day, Matteo tried something new. He picked a British sitcom. Real, natural speech, humor, fast conversations. He chose one episode and committed to watching it 5 times in a week. His goal wasn't perfect understanding on day 1. It was training his ears through repetition. The first watch, subtitles on. He followed closely, pausing to notice how people talked. He heard real expressions like, "You all right?" instead of, "How are you?" or "Give me a sec" instead of "Give me a second." No memorizing, just observing. Second watch, subtitles still on, but listening more than reading. He noticed intonation, rhythm, stress. How sarcasm sounded different from seriousness. How body language helped him guess meaning. Third watch, subtitles off, hardest step. But because he already knew the story, he wasn't lost. He understood more than he expected. He felt emotions like annoyance, confusion, happiness. That helped him stay connected. Fourth and fifth watches, just audio, while walking or cooking. No subtitles, no video, just the voices. It felt like music. The speed wasn't so fast anymore. Phrases like, "No way, what's the deal?" or "That's mental" started standing out. Matteo didn't analyze. He just listened. Through repetition, those phrases became part of his memory. After that week, Matteo didn't just improve listening, he changed how he related to English. He stopped feeling outside the room. Now he felt inside, sitting on the couch with the characters, laughing, understanding. That connection gave him confidence. Matteo's story shows how repetition works. You don't always need more content. Sometimes you need to go deeper. Repeat the same content Relax. Recognize patterns. Hear phrases, not just words. Predict what's next. Build listening strength. Matteo kept a small notebook. He wrote 3 or 4 phrases every day, not to memorize later, but to keep language in his awareness. He also mimicked the actor's pronunciation, repeating lines out loud, not to sound British perfectly, but to feel how English moves in his mouth. Listening and speaking are connected. When your ears hear natural speech, your mouth learns to say it. Matteo's experience taught him progress doesn't have to be dramatic. It needs to be consistent. Focusing on one episode, repeating it with intention, he built a habit that worked, and he enjoyed it. If English feels too fast, words blur, and nothing sticks. Maybe you don't need more content. Maybe you need to go back to one scene, one episode, and listen again. Not to memorize, but to listen deeply. Because every time you hear something again, your brain understands it a little better. Every repetition is a chance to connect. From noise to real English, one episode at a time. When most learners start listening to English, they try to catch every single word. They imagine a clear line of separate words, one after another, just like in a textbook. But real English doesn't sound like that. Native speakers don't say word by word. Instead, we connect sounds, reduce syllables, swallow vowels, and sometimes skip whole parts of a sentence. If you listen the way you read, you'll quickly feel lost. That's why one of the biggest mindset shifts in listening is learning to focus on sounds, not just individual words. Once you do that, your ears start to recognize the patterns that make spoken English so rich and so different from what you see on the page. Let's try an example. Imagine someone says, "What do you want to do today?" On paper, that's 7 clear words. But naturally spoken, it sounds like, "What do you want to do today?" The whole sentence compresses into one smooth sound. If you listen for each word separately, you might not recognize any of them. But if you listen for patterns, the rhythm, and the shape of the phrase, you'll catch the meaning. I worked with a student named Vera from Prague. She was an advanced learner. Her grammar was excellent, her vocabulary strong. But when she listened to native conversations, she felt overwhelmed. Her biggest complaint? "I don't hear any of the words I studied." And she was right. In fast, real English, those words don't always appear clearly. They hide inside sound patterns, connected speech, and expressions you won't find in textbooks. So, we stopped studying individual words. Instead, we studied sounds. I asked Vera to listen to short clips, just 10 or 15 seconds long, and write down what she heard. Not what she expected, but exactly what she heard. At first, she wrote textbook phrases, but then, listening again, she wrote phonetically, exactly as it sounded. Gonna, not going to. Dunno, not don't know. Slowly, she started to notice how native speech blends and shifts. It was like unlocking a new version of English, one that had always been there, but she had never been trained to hear. Here's another tip. Focus on common sound patterns. Certain reductions and connections repeat in spoken English. Learning these gives you a huge advantage. For example, you want to becomes you wanna, I don't know, becomes I don't know. Did you becomes didja? Let me becomes lemmy. Give me becomes gimme. Got to becomes gotta. These aren't slang. They're normal reductions in spoken English. You'll hear them in conversations, movies, podcasts, even interviews and professional settings. If you resist them, only wanting full words, you'll miss the natural flow. But if you embrace them, you'll suddenly catch phrases that once sounded like noise. Listening for sounds also means paying attention to intonation and rhythm. English is a stress-timed language. We don't stress every word equally. Some words are louder, longer, clearer, usually the important ones. Others are soft, fast, reduced. For example, I've been working all day. The words been and all might be said quickly, almost disappearing. The main stress falls on working and day. If you expect every word to be clear and strong, you'll miss these subtle differences. A helpful exercise is shadowing. Listen to a short sentence. Repeat it exactly as you hear it. Copy the sounds, rhythm, and stress, not just the words. At first, it might feel strange. You might feel like you're speaking too fast or mumbling. But that's part of learning. You're training your ear and your mouth to match the natural music of English. It's not about sounding perfect. It's about building recognition. Once you hear a phrase enough and repeat it, it becomes part of your internal language system. Another important point: learn to recognize chunks. Fixed expressions native speakers say all the time. Examples are, at the end of the day, you know what I mean. That being said, long story short, these chunks carry meaning as a group. You don't need to break them down word by word. If you've heard them enough, you'll understand instantly. Even if they're said quickly, your brain will catch the familiar shape. Think of it like learning a song. At first, you don't know the lyrics, but after hearing the chorus a few times, you start to sing along. You don't think about each word. You just know how it sounds. That's exactly how listening works. The more you hear the same sounds and patterns, the more they become part of your understanding. That's why repetition is so powerful. It gives your brain the time it needs to build connections. I remember when a podcast listener, Omar from Stockholm, messaged me. He said, "I finally understood someone saying, 'What you up to?' on the street." I had shared that phrase in an episode, and suddenly it clicked for him. That's the power of sound recognition. Once your ears expect certain reductions and patterns, you don't need to consciously process everything. You just understand. It becomes natural. You don't have to worry about every slang or regional expression. There will always be variation in how people speak. But if you focus on common sounds, reductions, and connected phrases, you can follow the conversation. Even if a few words are unfamiliar, don't aim for perfect understanding. Aim for confident understanding. Trust your ears, trust the rhythm, and stay open to patterns. To build this skill, try a simple daily habit. Choose a short video or audio clip. First, listen for general meaning. Then, listen again. This time, focus on how words connect. Write down any reduced phrases you hear. Try saying them out loud. Don't overthink it. Just repeat what you hear. Do this consistently, and your listening will grow in ways grammar exercises and vocabulary drills can't match. Because English isn't just words. It's a living, flowing sound system. Once you learn to hear those sounds, everything starts to come together. You understand not just what people say, but how they say it. That's where real fluency begins. In the music of the language, in the rhythm, in the sounds between the words. One of the best tools for improving listening is something you're probably already using: podcasts. They offer a world of opportunity, especially when you choose the right content and use it with intention. Audio-only content is special. It forces you to focus. Without visual clues like facial expressions or subtitles, you have to rely on your ears. That's exactly what strengthens listening over time. Podcasts are like a quiet classroom you carry in your pocket. You can learn anywhere, walking, cooking, commuting, without needing to open a book. What makes podcasts so effective is the variety of voices and natural rhythm of spoken English. Many podcasts are made just for learners. They use clear pronunciation, slower pace, and structured vocabulary. This podcast you're listening to right now was made with that in mind. I slow down just enough to help you follow, but not so much that it feels unnatural. My goal is to give you real English with space to breathe, so your brain can process sounds and meaning together. If you're just starting your journey, this kind of content helps you build confidence and develop your ear gradually. But when you're ready to stretch yourself, native-level podcasts become invaluable. I always recommend starting with podcasts that have clear structure, like news reports, interviews, or storytelling shows. These formats have a predictable flow. News podcasts introduce a topic, provide facts, and repeat key points. Interviews create a rhythm that helps your brain anticipate what comes next. Storytelling podcasts often pause for dramatic effect, giving you time to absorb what's said. One of my students, Rana Tata from Lisbon, used to listen only to podcasts made for learners. She felt safe there. Speech was clear, vocabulary simple. She understood most of it. But after a while, she stopped improving. She was just reinforcing what she already knew. So I suggested she try something new. I asked her to find a storytelling podcast in English for native speakers and choose one short episode per week. Her first reaction? Fear. "But I won't understand anything," she said. I encouraged a student to listen with a pen in hand, not to write everything down, but to capture just a few key phrases and ideas. The first time, she caught only about 30% of the content. But then, something amazing happened. She realized that even without understanding every word, she could follow the emotional tone, the story's structure, and some of the expressions. By the third time listening to the same episode, she had picked up whole chunks she missed the first time. She began to trust her brain to fill in the gaps, and by the second week, she was listening with more ease. The fear was replaced by curiosity. That's the real power of slow and repeated listening. You give your mind the chance to adapt. You move from hearing disconnected words to recognizing the flow of language. Podcasts let you control the pace. Most apps allow you to slow down the audio a bit, say to 0.9 times speed. This can make a big difference, especially with fast speakers. Don't slow it too much, or it sounds unnatural, but just enough to catch patterns and phrases. Over time, your ear will adjust, and you won't need to slow it down at all. Another great technique is to pause at key points and repeat what you just heard. You don't need to get every word right. Just try to match the rhythm and tone. This shadowing technique improves both your listening and speaking. It makes you more sensitive to how native speakers connect words, stress syllables, and move between ideas. Even 5 minutes a day of this focused listening can make a huge impact over time. I also encourage you to keep a listening journal. Every time you finish a podcast episode, write down 3 things. One phrase you didn't understand at first, but figured out later. One new expression you heard. One general idea you were able to follow. This practice builds awareness. You stop focusing on what you missed and start celebrating what you understood. and that positive mindset will carry you forward far more than any grammar rule or vocabulary list. Don't be afraid to listen to something more than once. In fact, I recommend it. First time, for general understanding. Second time, for details. Third time, for flow and confidence. Each time your brain processes something new. Repetition isn't boring when the content interests you. That's why I always suggest choosing topics that matter to you. If you love travel, listen to travel interviews. If you're curious about health, science, or relationships, there's a podcast out there for you. When you care about the topic, your attention improves and your learning deepens. Another student I worked with, Victor from Munich, was interested in technology and entrepreneurship. He started listening to a podcast hosted by American founders, talking about their companies. At first, he struggled. The speakers used idioms and spoke quickly. But after a few weeks of consistent listening, he started recognizing patterns like raise the bar, get the ball rolling, think outside the box. These weren't in any of his textbooks, but they were everywhere in the podcast. He began using them in his own conversations. Not perfectly at first, but over time, they became part of his natural speaking style. This kind of learning happens when you listen actively. Don't just play a podcast while cleaning your room and forget what was said. Engage with it. Ask yourself questions. Pause and reflect. What was the main point? How did the speaker feel? Which phrases came up more than once? The more engaged you are, the more your brain retains. That's how you turn passive listening into powerful learning. So, whether you're listening to a learner podcast or native level content, the most important thing is consistency. Let English audio become part of your daily life. Make it something you look forward to. And always remember, you don't have to understand everything. You just need to keep showing up, keep listening, and keep trusting that your brain is learning, even when it feels slow. That's how fluency is built. Moment by moment, podcast by podcast. I want to talk about building your English listening skills in a way that fits your life and how to overcome a common challenge, fear. First, I encourage you to build a playlist of your favorite English audio content. Keep it handy on your phone or device so you can listen anytime. While waiting in line, walking your dog, or doing house chores. The more you surround yourself with English sounds, the more comfortable you'll become. Your brain will start to pick up patterns and recognize words faster, often without you even realizing it. It's also important to be patient with yourself. Listening in a second language can be tiring. Sometimes you'll feel like you're not improving. That's normal. Your brain is working hard behind the scenes. The important thing is to keep going. The habit of listening daily, even in small doses, builds a foundation that supports your fluency over time. I've seen this approach help so many learners, from busy cities like London to quiet towns in Sweden. You don't need extra hours or expensive courses, just a simple decision to listen while doing what you already do. So don't wait for the perfect time or place. Start today by choosing a podcast, audiobook, or video that interests you. Play it during your daily tasks. Let your ears soak up the sounds. Trust that your brain is learning, even if you don't catch everything. Over weeks and months, you'll notice your understanding improving, your confidence growing, and your connection with English deepening. Remember, learning English is a journey. Every little step counts. Listening while you cook, walk, or commute is one of the easiest and most effective steps you can take. Make it part of your routine. You'll be amazed at how much progress you can make without adding pressure or stress to your day. Let me share a story about Thomas. A perfect example of how progress sometimes comes quietly, in small, unexpected moments. One day, Thomas heard a sentence in English at a coffee shop. It wasn't a perfect match of every word, but the sentence structure, pronunciation, and tone all sounded familiar. He smiled to himself, feeling a little thrill inside. That moment was more than just understanding a sentence. It was a sign of progress. For the first time, English didn't sound like a foreign language or a complicated puzzle. It sounded like something he could catch and hold on to. Something real. Thomas told me later that this small surprise gave him a big motivation boost. He felt encouraged to keep listening, keep practicing, and trust that all the background work was starting to pay off. What I love about Thomas's experience is how it shows the value of patience and regular exposure. He wasn't forcing himself to understand every word or sentence. He was allowing himself to listen casually, without pressure, during simple daily tasks, and that casual listening created a foundation in his brain, a kind of familiarity with sounds, phrases, and intonation that showed up unexpectedly in real life. Sometimes learners expect quick results or perfect understanding every time. But the truth is, progress often happens behind the scenes. Your brain is collecting pieces of English. Even when you don't realize it, those pieces come together slowly like puzzle parts that finally fit. And then one day, you hear something in the real world that you recognize instantly, and it feels like a breakthrough. Thomas's story also reminds us that motivation is key. When you experience moments of success, no matter how small, they fuel your desire to continue. Even if you don't understand everything, recognizing a phrase or sentence in real life can light a fire in your heart. It says, "You're getting there." It says, "This is real progress." And that feeling makes the effort feel worthwhile. If you want your own coffee shop surprise, here's what I suggest. Keep listening regularly in a way that fits your lifestyle. Don't stress about understanding every word. Instead, focus on enjoying the sounds, rhythm, and flow of English. Pay attention to phrases and expressions that catch your ear, even if you don't fully understand them at first. Write down those phrases or say them out loud. Let your brain store them like little treasures. Then be open to moments like Thomas's, when English pops up in your daily life and sounds familiar. These moments may feel small, but they're important markers on your language journey. They show your brain is working, your ears are getting trained, and your English is becoming part of your world. Listening during daily tasks builds real-life listening skills. Podcasts, audiobooks, or videos played while you cook, clean, or travel aren't just background noise. They're training your brain to understand English naturally. And that training pays off in surprising ways. So, next time you listen to any English audio, remember Thomas's story. Trust that the time you spend listening, even when you think it's just passing time, is building your ability to understand native speakers. One day, maybe while waiting for your coffee, you'll catch a phrase, recognize a sentence, and smile because English will feel familiar and welcoming. That's the magic of real listening practice. It's not always obvious, but it's always happening. And it's leading you closer to fluency, one surprising moment at a time. Now, let's talk about something many learners face: fear. Fear of making mistakes, fear of not understanding perfectly, fear of feeling lost or embarrassed. I want to talk about that fear today because it can seriously block your progress if you let it. Listening, especially to native speakers, isn't about perfection. It's about getting the general idea and letting your brain absorb the sounds naturally over time. When you start learning English, or even after studying for a while, you might feel like you have to catch every single word to really understand. Maybe you tell yourself, if I miss one word, I'm failing. Or, if I don't repeat exactly what I hear, I'm not doing it right. This kind of thinking creates pressure, and pressure creates fear. Fear makes you tense, and tension makes listening harder. It's a cycle that can keep you stuck. But here's the truth. No one understands every word all the time, not even native speakers. When native speakers talk, they often leave out words, use contractions, and speak quickly. Sometimes they repeat themselves or change their sentences as they speak. English in real life isn't a perfect script. It's natural, full of hesitations and shortcuts. So, why do we expect ourselves to understand everything perfectly? Letting go of the fear of mistakes means accepting that it's okay to miss words or not understand every sentence. Instead of aiming for perfection, focus on understanding the overall meaning. For example, if you hear, "I'm going to meet her at the cafe," but you only catch "me" and "cafe," that's enough to get the idea. Your brain will fill in the gaps over time. This is how we all listen in real life, even in our native language. You don't need to translate word for word or know every single word to understand a conversation. I remember a student named Lucas from Vienna. He used to be very self-critical about his listening. He got frustrated when he missed parts of conversations or didn't understand fast speakers. He told me, "I feel like I'm failing if I don't get every word right." We worked together to change that mindset. Instead of trying to understand everything, Lucas started practicing listening for the main idea and a few key words. He also practiced listening without stopping to translate every word. Slowly, his confidence grew. He realized understanding 70 or 80% of a conversation was a huge success. And it didn't mean he was failing. Fear of mistakes can also stop you from practicing speaking, which affects your listening too. When you're scared to speak because you might make mistakes, you lose opportunities to hear yourself and learn from your own voice. Shadowing exercises, repeating phrases, or speaking to yourself in English can help you feel more comfortable with mistakes. When you practice speaking, you become more familiar with how English sounds and flows, which makes listening easier. Another important part of letting go of fear is being kind to yourself. Learning a language is a process. It takes time. Instead of judging yourself for what you don't understand, celebrate what you do understand. Every time you listen and catch a phrase or sentence, that's progress. Every time you try to repeat a sentence or respond in English, you're growing. Positive self-talk and patience go a long way in overcoming fear. If you catch yourself thinking, "I can't do this because I make mistakes," try changing your inner dialogue to, "Mistakes are part of learning," or, "It's okay not to understand everything right now." You might even try writing down your fears and then writing a positive response next to them. This simple exercise helps you notice negative thoughts and replace them with encouragement. It also helps to remember why you're learning English in the first place. Maybe it's to travel, make friends, watch movies without subtitles, or work in an international company. Keep your goals in mind and remind yourself, making mistakes is a natural step toward reaching those goals. Every learner makes mistakes, but successful learners keep going despite them. Sometimes fear comes from comparing yourself to others. You might think, that person understands everything, but I don't. Remember, everyone's learning journey is different. Some people have more time, different backgrounds, or more exposure. Comparing yourself only creates unnecessary pressure. Focus on your own progress and celebrate your unique journey. Finally, practice mindfulness when you listen. If anxiety or frustration rises, take a deep breath and remind yourself to relax. Listening is easier when you're calm. It's okay to pause and take a moment if you need to. You can always listen again or slow down the audio. The important thing is to keep your mind open and curious, not tense or critical. Letting go of the fear of mistakes is a process. It won't happen overnight, but every time you listen without judgment, every time you repeat a phrase without worrying about being perfect, you're releasing that fear a little more. You're building trust in your ability to learn and understand English, and that trust is the foundation of real progress. So next time you listen to English, try to focus on the meaning, not the mistakes. Allow yourself to miss words. Pause, rewind, and repeat. Speak out loud, even if it's not perfect. Be kind to yourself. Remember, learning English is about communication, connection, and growth, not perfection. Fear may visit you, but it doesn't have to stay. You have the power to let it go and enjoy the journey. And remember this, fluency isn't built in a day. It's built in the small, quiet moments. When you choose to listen instead of doubt, when you repeat a phrase instead of staying silent, when you celebrate progress instead of chasing perfection. You don't have to understand everything. You just have to keep going. Trust your journey, trust your brain, and most of all, trust yourself, because English is not a wall you need to climb. It's a road you're already walking, step by step, sentence by sentence, moment by moment. You're getting there. I'm Julia, and this is English Without Limit. Keep listening, keep growing, and never stop believing in your voice.